The expectations for the Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, they've risen. So how many games does the team need to win in 2024? Well, if any indication is NFL Network panelists, things could be a little rocky. We're getting all into it right now. PHNX Cardinals. Hey, welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. Check out our friends at Bet365 right now, presented, sponsored today. Download the app. Use the bonus code PHNX365 when you sign up. Choose your offer, Bo, and find out why it's never ordinary with our friends at Bet365. I'm Johnny Venerable. He's the co-host. Bo Brack here on a football Thursday. Liven things up just a wee bit early today, as Bo and I, after the show, are heading over to our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, Wild Horse Pass, do a little fantasy football action. That is open to the public. Come hang out with us immediately following today's program. But boy, oh boy, do we have a program ready for you today. And I don't want to say it's been a tough August for Cardinal fans, but I would say it's been an eventful one. And I'm trying to take the tea leaves on the Twitter streets, Bo, and asking everybody, like, has your perception of the Cardinals changed this year? Because I feel like 3.5 weeks ago, vibes were a little higher than they are now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you're going to go to the mean streets of Twitter, you're going to find vibes have taken a hit. But I think if you were to check in the streets of the Arizona Cardinals locker room, I think vibes remain at an all-time high. And you'll hear from two of the guys on the offensive and defensive front, and Will Hernandez and Roy Lopez. I don't think there's any question. Like this team's getting more intense as the days draw closer of opening week in Orchard Park against Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, and that this team's intensity is ratcheting up a notch. And people kind of get distracted, and as they start to see things play out in preseason in teams ones playing, and with the Cardinals case, they don't. You see these second, third, fourth stringers, and you get a little uneasy. Is this what it's going to look like when you really don't have a good indication of that without anybody really that's expected to play significant snaps hitting the field? And also you got a couple of injuries. Like injuries, when you build a roster, you start to look at places, especially like the pass rush and the defensive front, where they add, at least on the defensive front, and still one of your prized additions goes down. It's going to take things down a notch. And I think with that, vibes and people's expectations, they wane a little bit. But I think once the games start, we'll get a good indication of where they are.
I think offensively, nothing's changed for the perception of this fan base. Like, it's an article at ESPN today, it almost felt like risky projections nonetheless that maybe casual fans wouldn't think. And the one about the Arizona Cardinals was they're going to have a top 10 offense. That's something we've been harping on since, this offseason. And I feel like, barring something unforeseen, if they don't have a top 10 offense this year, it could be a rough watch. So I put the offense off to the side for a second. And sure, Zay Jones is gone for 5 games. How much of a difference does that make? But, knock on wood, offensive line, running back, wide receivers, and most importantly, your starting quarterback all have looked good at times this preseason and offseason. It's the defense, I think, that, a lot of us thought would be an issue dating back to the spring. And then I feel like, there was some good vibes around this defense with second-year players and multiple draft picks. And here's Darius Robinson. He doesn't even have to start yet. And now you take away Darius Robinson and BJ Ojulari, and it magnifies, I think, the averageness of this unit. And this unit that you felt like, homegrown top 50 prospects. Now we're back to guys who were signed to modest contracts in the offseason and players that maybe we saw last year didn't look very good. Sure, you have Budda Baker. He's another year older. Kazir White had an injury last year. Zaven Collins, what's he going to look like in year 2? I think the defense right now is, I see Jason in the chat saying the outside linebacker room was polarizing. I'd go one step further. I think this defense is polarizing right now. And I think it's giving a lot of people hesitation, because if this was the NFC South, if this was a different division that didn't have 2 Hall of Fame level offensive play callers and juggernauts in the Rams and the 49ers, I think people would feel differently. But the perception nationally is, how are the Cardinals going to stop these teams with this defense in 20?
Yeah, but I think the biggest thing is the edge room, right? And
Yeah, for sure.
we can kind of get carried away with that, just
We can?
because, well, not this show, dear God, no, we would never. But like you look at from the trenches to the back end, as you mentioned with Boot Baker, Jalen Thompson, now with the addition of Rabbit Taylor Demerson, DDT, like people are excited about him as well. A ball hawking safety that they had as a kind of a gem that they found in the 4th round.
Yeah.
You start to look at this defense as a complete unit, and you also look at the improved trench play, which I think is going to show itself. And you're going to say, hey, this might be able to, it can improve vastly compared to last year, because there just wasn't the personnel in that spot. Sure, you return Roy Lopez, and you bring back LJ Collier on a 1-year prove-it deal, because you like what you saw. You have Dante Stills in his 2nd season as a 6th-round pick, and then you have the 2 free agent additions in Justin Jones and Bilal Nichols. I think that's going to be your 5-man rotation to start the season, and that these are going to be guys. It's no longer like, oh, you've got just Rolo there, and in this game you've got just Dante Stills there, or some combination of that. Like, I think they brought Collier back for a reason. They really like what they saw from him in preseason and training camp last year, and like the very small amount of snaps he got before succumbing to a biceps injury in the Washington game. And then the additions of Jones and Nichols, and also just their ability to run stop, which wasn't there last year. Can you turn opposing offense into a single dimension offense? And does that gives you the ability to maybe take some pedestrian to below average edge rushers? They can pin their ears back and maybe rack up some sacks that they wouldn't necessarily do.
I mean, what we're looking at this defense, and again, let's just assume Darius Robinson comes back week 5 and everything's fine and he looks as good as he did during training camp. And let's say that the situation is status quo with this defense otherwise. They don't have a Reddick. They don't go out and make a move. What's the ceiling for this defense in 2024? I think we know what the floor can be, because we saw the times last year, right? 3rd last in the NFL in sacks. The talent is improved, although there are no headliners here. What do you believe is the ceiling? And is that ceiling, Bo, is this a better question, driven by its head coach and its defensive coordinator?
I think that this is going, obviously, like the defensive coordinator is going to be play a huge role as far as what they can do. Like, can he take them to and unlock some untapped potential as far as these guys, for sure. And it's gonna be some production that people aren't going to expect, and it's going to be, especially coming off of the slump at the end of last season, 6 games, and it's more than just a red flag, but to get this unit in a position to where they can stop an MVP candidate, perennially in Josh Allen week 1, it's going to take just a complete group effort from the coaching staff to the players on the field.
I see some good comments here in the chat. Like, if they're top 20, that's their ceiling anywhere. Shafe saying 15th to 20th. Last year, while they were pretty rough in sacks forced, and they were pretty rough in opposing points per game, they gave up almost 27. Total defense, which is a collection, I think, of total yards allowed, which I think, sometimes is a little bit screwy. Like, I'm counting this list, and they were in the mid-20s last year in what's considered total defense. But for me, I think it's more points allowed. Like, I don't care about total yards. I don't care about, anything as it relates to some of these phone numbers, because some of that can come in garbage time, right? I think it's how many steps forward can you take if you were giving up, and this is the Cardinals number from last year, 26.7 points per game last year. Can you get that number to 24? Can you get that number to 23.5? Help you a lot. I think if the Cardinals are, giving up anywhere between 21 to 24 points per game, and it's going to be hard, especially within the first half of the season, it's going to keep them very viable, because I think we can look at this team and say, offensively, Kyler can throw 2 touchdowns a game. James Conner, the run game's good for a touchdown. Mike Prater's good for a couple field goals, right? Marv, Trey, Michael, Greg, they're all going to get theirs. So I think it's asking a lot. Can you go from 26-7, let's just say, to an even 24, 24.5? It's going to help the Cardinals exponentially. And I do think, circling back to the show title today, a successful season for me, winning wise, I'll put a cachet or a sub bullet to it, I should say. You need to win games in the division. So what does that look like? We can't go over like you did last year. And I think it would be a disappointing year if you got swept by the Rams and the Niners. Like, I think we're considering the Seahawk games, certainly not layups, but like games that you should probably win because you have the better quarterback. I think a good year for the Cardinals is going 500 in the division, whatever that looks like, and getting to at least, if I'm going to say Cardinals had a good year, 8 wins. Now, that's probably not getting you into the postseason, but I would say universally, like, Cardinal fans, if you're hovering around 6-7 wins, they're going to be disappointed. I mean, hell, Bo, they won 4 games last year, and we could probably count 3 or 4 more games where they were right there in the end on that team last year. Right. The Giants game, the Washington game, right? Of course, the finale against the Seahawks. The first game against Seattle, the defense played outstanding. It was 20-10. Dobbs couldn't do anything. The game against Houston, you were right there. So I think anything less than 8 wins, I think we're looking back and it's like that was disappointing for this team. And I could be totally off base with the chat.
Yeah, and you're also a possession away from changing the complexion of the game, like against maybe a Chicago. You were in there for the first half against Cincinnati, against Baltimore, and with an improved just talent, collection of talent on the defensive side of the football, and still, a lot of learning curves because it's a lot of young players coming into this roster via the draft. It's going to be, it could be ugly. Like some of it, like to really kind of get to where you want to go, especially as like a Fortune 500 company or an organization. Like, you got to take your lumps. You got to be able to take your lumps, and things get ugly early on, right? In order to learn from those mistakes, to develop in a draft and develop situation like they're facing right now in year 2, like facing a team that's expectations are the Super Bowl each and every year in the Buffalo Bills. That's a tough week 1 matchup, but and we understand that they've got some potential shortcomings. But yeah, I mean, I think as far as the expectations go, and putting them a lot of the emphasis on the division games, that if you're going to beat a Niners, if you're going to beat a Rams, or even the Seahawks, who are much improved, we'll see what they get from a coaching standpoint. I think that would bode well for their entire schedule. Like, because I think if you can beat these teams, you can compete with anybody in the NFL. So it's an interesting barometer. It would be, if it's that uneven, if it's like, hey, you go 500 in the NFC West, but you still fall short and you're under 500, like, what went wrong elsewhere? Like, did you lose to a team you shouldn't have in the Panthers and the Patriots? You would hope not, right? And are you hanging tough with the teams that I think are in your weight class, like the Chargers or the Miami Dolphins, who I think are teams that have the same type of expectations. So it really is going to just kind of, you can talk about it. And we did last year, like when teams were talking about this team being winless, or we were talking about a team going 4-13 again, or 5-12. Like, how does that look? Because like, it's way different than, hey, sign me up right now. Because if they go 8-9, but they start the season 1-5, that's a, like, just think about the sky is falling around this fan base for the first 6 weeks of the season.
Well, it's the opposite of the Cliff years, right? Because every year with Cliff, it was like 6-3 in 2020. And I'm like, yeah, we've got the coach. It's figured out. The next year, of course, they started 9-1. and everybody's like, extend him, coach. I mean, Cliff was the favorite to win Coach of the Year, and Kyler Murray was the favorite to win the MVP. And they couldn't have ended poor. The 6-3 year, they finished 9-7, didn't make the playoffs, or 8-8. I'm sorry. Then the next year, I mean, they barely got into the postseason, blew the division, lost to a bad Seattle team at home in Week 17, and got their brains beat in by the LA Rams. I was at SoFi for that game, so yeah, it would be a lot to endure. I mean, it'd be like Detroit's, rise 2 years ago, where they started slow. People thought that team was up and coming. I think that team got more love than this Cardinal team because the NFC North outside of Green Bay was kind of middling. And then,
but if you have a run at the end of the season like that, I mean, 1-7, which I think they started, was devastating. But then,
1-6 or 1-7, something like that.
Yeah, the finish to that season was nothing short of electric. Ending Aaron Rodgers' career with the Packers and knocking them out of the playoffs. It was, if you could have something of that, those are just wins without them being wins.
And again, it's a long season. And I'm of the mindset, can you get through, and I hate doing this, but we're going to do it real fast here on a football Thursday. Can you get through these first 8 games with 3 wins? I think you can. Look at the first 8 games and look at the last 9 games and think about the quarterback advantages you're going to have from weeks 9 through 18. And a lot of those matchups, the Cardinals should be, I think, sizable favorites, especially at home. Can you beat Buffalo, LA, Detroit, Washington, San Francisco, Green Bay, Chargers at home on Monday Night Football, ESPN Plus, and Miami and Miami? Are there 3 wins in that group? I think there are. And then all you would have to do the rest of the way, could you win? I say all. Could you win 6 of 9 against a Chicago team that we'll see? Jets at home, I think that's a winnable game. Seahawks twice, Sam Darnold in week 13, 2 of the worst teams in the NFL, week 15, 16. And then, who knows what the Niners and the Rams are playing for at the end of the year. Like, that's the goal. That's not the goal. That should be the floor of what you hope to accomplish. But here's the issue. This team starting 0-3, it's not a catastrophe, but it's right above that. Mm-hmm. Because again, then you're putting a lot of pressure on, you got to beat Washington, you got to beat the Chargers, and then you got to beat either Green Bay or Miami in games you are not going to be favored on the road. So
yeah,
you need to find a way. I hate the term steal because 2 of those games are at home. You got to find a way to win one of your first 3. You have to.
Yeah, I agree with that. And but like those saying 3 and 5 in the chat, in your first 8 games, are you strapping in? Are you buckling up for that? Because 5 losses in 8 games, you're going.
I think nationally people will rip them. I think we'll understand, especially.
I don't know if that's true.
Depending on how it looks.
Because like, how many games are they going to be favored in? They're not favored week 1, 2, 3.
They're favored in week 4, and I think they're favored in week 7 right now.
And they should. Like, the more and more I look at their schedule, that needs to be a win. Like, I don't care about Justin Herbert. I don't care about Jim Harbaugh. Like, the pound for pound, the roster, like the Cardinals, they don't have this edge over a lot of teams, but they have the edge over the Chargers. You're at home, primetime game. That's one of those games you start to change the narrative with. Yeah, I don't care if it's on Roku Plus, whatever it may be, whatever streaming
public access.
Right. It's Cooper Manning, not the actual Manning brothers doing the simulcast. It's but you got to win that football game. It's on the schedule and you get it done.
But my issue, Bo, with the rest of these, like, let's say you beat those 2 teams. You beat Washington, you beat the Chargers. Like, the rest of these games, are you going to start 0-4 on the road? Are you going to start 0-2 in the division? That'd be a tough sell. Like, we're talking about the optics of what it's going to look like. I think if you don't beat Buffalo week 1, like, find a way to win that game against the Rams at home in week 2. A Rams team that's playing a lot of young players, a Rams team that is not good early in the season. They get better as the year goes on. They're the anti-Cliff Cardinals. If you can beat the Rams at home in week 2, it dramatically changes your season. You get a division win. You get a win against somebody that you haven't beaten more than twice in your tenure. JG gets his first divisional win. And then you can just say, okay, we're just going to change wins out every other week at worst. We're going to beat LA. We're going to beat Washington. Got a chance to certainly beat Green Bay and or the Chargers. That would really help this team's momentum by doing that early on.
Yeah, I mean, to go 0-3 in your first 3 home games, I don't care who you're playing. Like the Lions, the Rams, like in Washington for sure. Like Washington, I think we're chalking up as a dub and needs to be.
Has to be
right. But yeah, I hear you on the Rams thing. Like I think the Rams always can overcome a slow start, but like if they're going to start slow, take advantage of that, right? If they're going to pace themselves for the marathon of a season and get out all their starters, kind of ease them in with their 36-year-old quarterback, with their hobbled second year, wide receiver prodigy in Puka and Cooper Kupp, who faced injuries last year. Like one thing you have to show in the Rams game is the ability to slow down the run, because that's where they absolutely just got at you last year and made those games laughers in the second half. Like you've got to be able to start changing things, the narrative around your defense as early as week 2, if not week 1 against, Allen and the Bills.
We're going to talk more about the Arizona Cardinals and, of course, what JG and company had to say today. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here, less than 2 weeks away from the start of the NFL season. And I can't wait for everybody to hear some of these comments, specifically from Roy Lopez. I hope my co-host can echo them, because they took me back, man. Good for Roy Lopez and good for JG. Good for you if you're coming out to Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass tonight. And if you're not, what are you waiting for? It's a free event. It's our fantasy football event. And we're ready to party with you. The fantasy football draft tonight, August 29th, Gila River Resorts and Casinos. The picks on the left, those are from our sweet, sweet draft party dating back to last April. It's our first time going since then as a big company. And why not keep the good vibes going at a place where they've got 4,500 slots, live table games, and more. So if you're coming out for the draft and you want to dabble, which I recommend, they've got great food, great apps, great beverages. They've got a pool on top. It is a premier casino. It's a resort of I would think on par with most anything that I've visited in Las Vegas, in the greater Arizona area.
Yeah.
If you have not been out to Wild Horse Pass or one of their many other 4 locations, check them out. Again, lounge at either the AAA 4 Diamond Resorts or let relaxation take charge with the unbeatable desert and mountain views. But again, I don't know if I said this already or not. This event is free tonight. Come hang out. Starts at 6:30. We're drafting. We're hanging. We're having a great time.
You know what, Johnny? I'm so confident. I'm so fired up about this. Like if you come out to the event tonight, not only am I buying you a beer, but I'm also letting you make a pick for me. Like you can come into my war room,
that's incredible.
And you can make a pick for my team, and we're just going to basically be co-managers. I'm going to be Monti Ossenfort. You're going to be Dave Sears, and we're gonna make this happen.
Let's do. I'll double down. Same thing goes for me. Let's get some picks. Let's hang out. Let's have a good time. Here's what I want. I want this to be an extension of PHNX Cardinals tonight, even though like some slappies from the other shows are going to be there. Yeah.
Frauds.
Big time frauds. They think they know more than us about football. I want PHNX Cardinals to be well represented tonight at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. Come and hang with us. We want to be the cool kids tonight. And so I want to see you there. Wild Horse Pass in Phoenix. The minute this show's over, I'm hopping in my car. We're going and we're partying all night long. Come hang with us at the draft tonight. And check them out, playhila.com for more information.
Oh, it's going to be elite. And yeah, look, I would trust each and every one of you guys. Everybody knows ball in this chat. And I would trust you all to get me to the finish line and not to the Waffle House as far as our PHNX Fantasy Football League goes. Look, also got to help you find folks out. If you're looking to hire someone, you need Indeed. You need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform. It does way more than that. We'll get into that in just a second, but they've got over 350 million people globally visiting their site, according to Indeed data, with matching engine that helps you find quality candidates and fast. And that's the key. You're going to find the highest quality candidates, and you're going to do it without a delay. Ditch the busy work. What Indeed helps you do is schedule, screen, and message so you can connect with candidates for your company quickly. Join the over 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Right now, check it out. You get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now to support our show, PHNX Cardinals, by saying you heard about it through PHNX Cards. Johnny and Bo and Damon Dog, they sent you there. Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. You need to hire. You need Indeed.
I need these super chats in my life. Let's start off with our guy, Kyler Plummer. How about that? $5. What are the odds on Bet365 for JV throwing some tip slander in the first 5 minutes? You would have been out.
Like -500.
Well, let's do it right now. Hey, Tip Ryman, why aren't you practicing this week? I'm going to go to the source right here. My co-host, Kyler.
Yeah.
Bo Brock, what did JG have to say about the rookie tight end from Illinois?
Is Kyler Plummer like it's a hybrid between the two greatest drafted quarterbacks in this organization?
I hope it's their real name. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, even better. We don't know what Tip Ryman's dealing with, but according to head coach Jonathan Gannon, he will not be back on the practice field until at least Monday. But there was confidence that Tip Ryman would return to the practice field Monday, the first day of practice of week 1. Yeah, week 1 will officially be upon us by that time. Not so much good news for our guy, Elijah Jones, 3rd round defensive back out of Boston College. He is actually out for at least the first 4 weeks of the season. He heads on injured reserve, heel injury that he suffered. You all saw him exit the game in the preseason. Elijah Jones, just like Darius Robinson, starting his career on IR. Chris Barnes immediately got signed from the practice squad. He's now on the roster.
It's tough, man. It's tough for Elijah Jones. That's a very competitive room. And I think we're probably looking at a guy that needs a year. That's another tough thing to kind of evaluate with this team this year is we didn't see much from Max Melton or Elijah Jones, right? I mean, Taylor Demerson was the standout as it relates to this defensive back group in training camp and in the preseason. But like they're going to lean on heavily Garrett Williams and Sean Murphy-Bunting, and I think Starling Thomas to start the year. But this draft class, I mean, now with Darius Robinson absent, I mean, you look at it, it's the Marv show right now. I mean, it's the Marvin Harrison Jr. show, and then everybody else is going to need to have a second to breathe a little bit. And again, if Darius was healthy, I think we both agree if he's not starting, he'd be playing a ton, he'd be wrecking games, he'd have an impact, he will. But the rest of these guys, Max Melton's going to have to work his way into the lineup. Isaiah Adams isn't a starter. Tip Ryman's a third tight end. And then Trey Benson, of course, is probably the next guy up in terms of ready to be inserted to substantial playing time. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I love that MP is back, our resident Bears fan. Cardinals will be picking top 5. That's just the reality of all situation. MP, you guys have been in the top 10 with your own pick the last 2 drafts. I mean, how soon you forget after being the offseason champions again. And then the guy that you guys just pounded the table for, Justin Fields, can't even win a horrible quarterback battle.
Hey, he's got a package though. Did you hear Mike Tomlin?
Oh, does he? Oh,
that package, that Justin Fields package. I'm a big
that's the guy. The guy's got a package, one package in an offensive system that features the quarterback Russell Wilson. That Bears fans were saying, well, why don't we just take Marvin Harrison Jr. and just couple him with Justin Fields and just waste.
It's like Vince Young and his like dream team. That's what Bear fans were like. Justin Fields, MHA dream team, and Bears. Brian Poles was like, no, I'm actually trying to keep my job. I'm going to get a real quarterback this offseason. Let's keep these super chats going. Good job. $9.99. Thank you so much. Sam Monson recently said he's very high on the card. Sam Monson in front of this program. He made a very good point that the limitation for the defense isn't that it's untalented, but the defense is very young. I would agree with that everywhere but pass rusher. I don't think they have a lot of talent at pass rusher outside of, I think Zaven Collins is talented and Xavier Thomas is talented. But again, like how much is that talent going to get you this year? I think those talented players would need to be also lifted up by a Darius and a BJ and maybe somebody else. So I think their back 7, good job. Like Chris Barnes was re-signed to the active roster today, and good for Chris Barnes. But I think Owen Papo and what we saw from him in his ascension potentially into the lineup. And then we just mentioned all the DBs, chess pieces for JG to use. I think the back 7 is very talented. I think the front 7, specifically the defensive line, like if the Cardinals do miss the playoffs this year, barring something unforeseen, this next offseason needs to be the line of scrimmage offseason. You got your Marvin, right? You got your skill players, you got your DBs, O-line, D-line, from March through April. That's what we need.
Big Ten, Michigan, Ohio State,
right?
Down to the SEC.
Get all
kickers from Bama.
Yep.
Load them up. It's going to be fantastic. And look, it's necessary. As far as Xavier Thomas, I wish you could create a hybrid from him, right? I wish it was Xavier Collins. It would be unbelievable what Xavier does as far as from a coverage standpoint, from a run blocking standpoint, or I'm saying run filling standpoint, and then what Thomas does just getting after the quarterback. That's a complete outside linebacker, just pass rush animal that I wish existed. And that's what you're looking for. But they're going to have to do it. It's like, this is this guy's strength. This is this guy's strength. And you're going to see those packages, them rotate in and out.
Ghosty, $5. Keeping on the subject of D-line. Thank you so much, Ghosty. The raised floor of the D-line will make the entire defense, pass rush included, look vastly better. Just compare the starting interior defensive line to last year's. I think to some extent you're right. With Darius now out, I have skepticism toward that, Ghosty. I have not seen Justin Jones or Bilal Nichols as Cardinals outside of excerpts in practice. So if they kick ass and take names against Buffalo, I'm all for it. And I want that to happen. But I also feel like, they were available for a reason in free agency. They didn't sign. Jones signed a nice contract, but it is good that Dante Stills isn't like your go-to guy right now. And they've got some depth there. Roy Lopez that we're going to talk about, LJ Collier. So I'm with you. It'll be better. It'll be better.
Yeah, it has to be. And I think that especially what we talked about with the Rams imposing their will on them in the second half of both those games against the run defense and just blowing them off the ball in the line of scrimmage. I just don't think that. I think that Nichols and Jones, and then of course the guys that you bring back have an ability to set that kind of win in the trenches, and that's going to be a big difference maker, especially when you talk about the back end of the defense that you like so much. And here's something I want to prepare people for.
Okay,
I think that the Starling Thomas training camp performance is going to turn into Starling Thomas playing opposite Sean Murphy Bunting to start this season. I think your defensive secondary is going to look like Starling Thomas, Sean Murphy Bunting, Buda Baker, Jalen Thompson, Garrett Williams.
Yeah.
And then Max Melton will work in. And I think, people liked what they saw from Melton. It's just that, going into week one, you've got a little experience now under your belt in Starling Thomas.
Starling Thomas has separated himself from the Keytrails of the world. And I'm happy Keytrail's still on the roster, but Starling Thomas is one from last year where hopefully we're perking up and saying, oh yeah, that starting experience last year wasn't for nothing. Bo's digested steak. I wish I could show up tonight by Gila River. Boys, if MHJ doesn't go to Bo or Damon Dog, we riot. # hold the line. With all due respect, Johnny, you deserve no one, let alone my MHJ. Bo's disgusting steak. I've contemplated all day.
Digested steak. It's not a disgusting steak.
I see the emoji or the avatar and I think disgusting, but I feel like what's too high for Marv for me tonight? I think back half of the first round definitely in play, especially you play to the crowd. 8 to 12, I feel pretty comfortable doing that. People call me nuts, but I just had a draft recently and I was picking 12 and 13 and I didn't take them. So, I was telling my son, I'm like, I'm not going to.
Of course you didn't.
Well, hang on a second.
Not when the cameras aren't on. And then
That's right. There's no crowd to play up to. But here's what I will say. I don't want to double down on the same caliber of players I just did. I took Garrett Wilson. Nobody cares about my fantasy team. Whatever. Marv, there's a good chance Marv's on my team. Bo's digested steak. Unfortunately for you. He will be mine.
Well, and look, Bo's digested steak, which came out of the gates is, I think, what my uneaten steak. We're now great friends. Enemies have become friends. That's been,
I don't like that.
It's just been an unbelievable just journey together. And I appreciate everything about our new relationship.
You like the shirt I'm rocking tonight? What do you think of this
right here?
It's
not PHNX football, but
it is not
decent.
I may or may not have had a Ric Flair shirt on. My wife said that looks terrible. Take that off. And I said, okay. So we've progressed. We've progressed on this show. Let's talk a little bit about practice today. Jonathan Gannon and company met with our local media here in Arizona. Any notable JG-isms today from the head coach?
Yeah, we did hear from the coach. He unveiled, some tips from a book that Jonathan Gannon, I think, says he uses as far as just some of the things that he utilizes as far as kind of leading a charge, the 33 strategies of war, which was an interesting tidbit. Also, wished a happy birthday to Darren Urban there of AZ Cardinals, and said that if it's not like a banner birthday, like your 21st birthday or something, he just doesn't give a crap. I'm paraphrasing, but that's just, you could tell he was fired up and things are getting closer. But he said that there's been a change, a shift as far as in the meeting rooms with all the players, that the intensity level has gone up and that players are locking in now, that the season opener is quickly approaching for the Cardinals. But also, we were chatting as far as the media and him kind of just doing the Q&A there. And Gannon was asked as far as, the expectations, especially with the team and the starters not playing. Does he know what to expect from his team? And this was his answer.
What I do kind of believe is, and this, I've gotten this from mentors of mine, like the first, you used to be able to split it up into quarters, now it's not. But if you kind of look at the month of September, I think you got that there is a feeling out and a learning process about your team, and the other 31 teams are doing that as well, because you got new people, whether you played your starters or not, who's having these roles, what does that look like? I don't think we'll know our true identity for a little bit of time, you know what I mean? With saying that, we got to do enough to put ourselves in position to win those 4 games, through the first part of the season there. But there's a growth and a learning that needs to continually happen as you get going on in the season, because it is a long season. And do I know who we are right now going to Buffalo? I have a good idea, but I don't know for sure, you know what I mean? So, and we need to see that play out in front of us, but every second counts right now, so knowing.
Every second counts. He feels like he's got a pretty good idea of who they are. I hope it's a team that is poised to start fast, because I do think that there's going to be criticisms, fair or not. And we heard it from Baldy. If you missed our Baldy interview yesterday, I encourage everybody to check that out. Very candid comments coming out and saying, I don't like what they did. And I think that some of us feel that way. I happen to feel that way. Like I just, the preseason to me, it almost felt like, I don't know, unnecessary from a Cardinals standpoint, when I haven't seen this team win with this group of guys yet. When I see other teams go out there and they, at least put forth an effort with their first couple of, series with their first team. So again, it's not the end all be all, but it is something that I think they're going to have to combat. If they start off slow in Buffalo, and this goes without saying, and Cliff used to play starters in the preseason and looked terrible week 1. So, I mean, it's not apples to oranges. I do feel like they have opened themselves up to criticism, but you have to do with what you believe is best for your team. And I'm never going to push back on JG for that. I always feel like if there's, this Roy Lopez bite that we've got here in a little bit, Bo, if like he knows who his team is and his players are responding to that. So who am I to question it? It's just not what I would have done personally.
Yeah. And you know what he also mentioned, and we don't have the clip, but basically saying that, the decision not to play the starters, that's not just how they do business. Like, we sit here and say during the preseason when we're watching 3rd and 4th string guys and non-roster guys make the, play the bulk of the games. And we're like, my God, I can't take another preseason game. And hopefully it goes down to 2 games with an 18-game schedule, whatever it may be. He's like, well, no, like we might change our approach next year. And he's always willing to have an open mind to it. And then, even if he has to blow it all up and start from scratch. And I guarantee you, like, if they come out of the gates and he talks about those first 4 games and they don't, if they don't go 500, if they don't win, the majority of them, he's probably going to look back at this preseason and say, all right, it didn't work. He's not going to look back at it, Johnny, is like, well, Monti didn't get me a pass rusher, or we were undermanned as a roster. He's going to look at it as like, we didn't have the right approach. We weren't prepared to do what it takes to win ball games. And it's that simple. It's almost a zero sum thing. And he's going to look at it not from what the true results were, but it was the process that led to those results where they might have fallen short.
Speaking of process, I mean, Roy Lopez and
Yeah.
the process that the Arizona Cardinals take as a collective unit. I mean, like, I may sit here and question the ceiling of certain players, but I'm never going to suggest that Jonathan Gannon does not have an infectious personality where everybody knows he is bought in. That's why I still feel confident about this season and building on what this team did last year. Do they have enough good players to do so? That remains to be seen. But let's take a look at this Roy Lopez.
For sure. And let me give you a little context. So in Gannon's availability, Rolo was asked about. And, he talks about Lopez. He used an example from practice yesterday where Lopez got dinged up a little bit in practice. And Gannon is like, rub some dirt on it. And Rolo is like responding with like, yeah, I would never come out. I don't want anybody to call the ambulance. And they're just kind of trading barbs back and forth, right? And, Gannon's just using like, that's his character. He's not going to take himself out of the game. He's all about business. He's all about ball. Nick Rawlis, I think it said earlier, just a couple weeks ago, he would want 53 Roy Lopez's or 90, just depending on where they were in the preseason. And he has got a lot of respect. The local kid from Mesquite High School here, and made his way onto the Cardinals roster around this time last year and has carved out a role. But I had asked him, kind of joking about the incident or the thing that went down yesterday.
Yeah.
What his relationship is with Gannon and his coaching staff. And this is what he had to say.
Like I said, we talk smack to each other, but it comes out of love. Players and coaches, doesn't matter. And staff also, and so it's an environment we built with each other, and that comes from bleeding with each other, man. We understand that, we can joke about it, because we went through it together, and so that's the biggest thing is knowing that we all care for each other. And he did say wambulance, everybody laughed, but it's awesome, man. I always said that, I always thought about coaching after I was done playing, but being here and seeing the way Nick and JG coach, man, you can tell. I tell people this a lot, man. I love ball. I grew up loving ball. My family loves football. Everything about it. Every single day, practice, hot, cold, doesn't matter. And so when you're in a room with a bunch of guys that love football and you stick out like a sore thumb, right? So when you come to meetings and he's talking, he's leading the meeting, you can feel him. You can feel him talk like he loves everything about football. He wants to win because he wants to be the head coach of Arizona Cardinals that won, right? He wants to be that part of the team. So it's like every day you feel it in meetings. You're just like, golly, bro. And so playing for them, it's like I tell everybody now, I don't see myself doing anything else after I'm playing football, man. I got to coach because I know what that did for me as a player. I know what it did for me, my career, my mindset every single day of just being able, you have a bad play or something, you look at the guy and that is supposed to be chewing you, right? And he's looking at me I know you can do it. Come on. And it's something that, he believes in you. So he's oh, I can take on the world, right? So it's awesome. What they did for me, as a player, as a man, it's been fun, man. It's a blessing.
Good stuff. I mean, it's about as good as it gets right there.
Yeah.
And again, it's a guy who's been in the NFL, grew up in Tempe, just 25 minutes north of where I'm sitting right now. And you think about started his career on a couple bad Houston teams, went to the Cardinals last year, bad team in Arizona. And he's like, yep, I'm sticking around and I want to play for this head coach. And these are the kind of guys that you need to fill out the meat of your roster with to be able to change culture. And this is authentic because you hear it not only from Roy, but you hear it from his teammates and his head coach about the kind of player he is and the fact that he's had a tremendous spring and training camp. So, I know we joke with Damon when he's on with us about, the product of, U of A, Roy Lopez, but I mean, he's probably one of the more underrated players on the team. And again, you don't get this kind of buy-in unless JG's your head coach.
Yeah. And what he said there as far as how all the guys in the room love ball.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't truly, authentically love ball, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And it's like it used to be the opposite with this organization, with this team. It's like the guys like the Buda Bakers were the outliers. They were the guys that were on Hard Knocks that were pleading with their teammates to care, to live this game that they're paid handsomely to play. And now you've got position group rooms filled with them. And now it's a matter of getting these players up to speed to compete and have the ability to play at this level and win. So they're getting the right type of player in there. It's now like, are they going to be able to get as talented a player as that's necessary to really make some noise in the league?
We're going to hear from more Arizona Cardinal line of scrimmage players. How about Will Hernandez? Is he poised at Bo Brock for a contract extension? Before we get to that, though, I want to tell everybody about our friends at Branded Bills, one of our favorite news sponsors. Right now, we're hooking you up. Bonus code PHNX, 20% off your first order. And again, if you haven't checked out Branded Bills, first of all, I'm a big hat guy. I know my co-host is a big hat guy. The perfect headwear and apparel. They're fantastic, whether you need snapback hats, trucker hats, you want fitted, you want beanies. Lindsay here at PHNX Sports rocks a beanie year round. That's a choice, right? Branded Bills has you covered with performance and style. Looking for some gear to make your brand stand out from the crowd? They can hook you up as well with some custom headgear. Again, start your order and their dedicated team will help you create the exact custom apparel that you need. They've got partnerships with ASU, U of A, as well as their campus collection, which is fantastic. The best part is, like, we love our partners. We love our partners that are here in Arizona. They are locally based here in Mesa. Branded Bills. Check them out right now. Check them out online. We're going to hook you up 20% off at brandedbills.com, your entire first order with the bonus code PHNX. Again, we love them. They're local. Check them out. You won't be sorry that you did, Bo.
No, you won't. You got a big Labor Day weekend coming up here, and we're going to have a special showtime tomorrow so everybody can get on their happy holiday way. Maybe beat some traffic on Friday. We'll have an earlier show tomorrow. But if you want to tap into the hottest team in baseball and their big-time Labor Day series against the Los Angeles Dodgers, then look no further than your friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, and that's going to get you $20 off just by being a listener or viewer of this podcast by using the promo code PHNX. But you can check into the D-backs and Dodgers for as little as $33 tomorrow. Or you can get 50% off Labor Day game. Right now, the 1:10 first pitch on Monday, September 2nd on Labor Day with our friends over at Game Time. You can delay it. That's the best thing about Game Time is you can just kind of be a procrastinator like Johnny and myself.
Yeah.
And wait until the last minute, and you're going to be able to probably cash in and save the most money with Game Time. Right now, get your tickets even easier with our friends over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app today. Create an account. Use the promo code PHNX for that $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account. Redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Game time, baby. It's game time for all of you. Drop a like on this video. How many likes are we up to right now? We're up to 81. Come on, guys. We're shooting for 300 likes here on a football Thursday. It is the eve of our fantasy football extravaganza. Talk more about that here in a little bit. I want to talk a little bit about the Cardinals and their offensive line. Will Hernandez, who was looking quite dapper, I will say. Right. I would say the mega mijo is what I would call him here. The vibes around Will Hernandez, first of all, a guy who I loved, coming out of UTEP, coming out of the collegiate ranks, was a top 40 pick. And was basically, I don't want to say abused by the Giants fan base, but was not treated well on a bad Giants team and a bad organization. Has come to Arizona, has really been a godsend each of the last 2 years, is a free agent to be. And his boy Yelda just got extended. And I know, Bo, he talked a little bit about his status today.
Yeah, that's right. I asked him about Yelda, and he was, ecstatic. He was happy for his boy. And it couldn't have happened to a better deserving player on that team, according to Will Hernandez. And then with that, the question was asked about Will Hernandez going into a contract year. And I think he realizes not all cases are the same, and this is his answer.
This kind of deal is like being at the DMV. You never know. Like you might get your number called, or all of a sudden it's 2 hours later and you got to go see what's going on. Who knows? I honestly don't think about it. I just play. Whatever happens, but I am aiming to play well every single play. That's for sure.
Here's what we do know. He was their highest rated offensive lineman last year, according to Pro Football Focus. Higher than Perez, higher than Yelda. He's an Iron Man. He's hurt, he plays. He's healthy, he plays. Backup starters, he plays. And everybody loves him on the team. He's one of the most likable players. Now, he is approaching, I think, 28, 29. So depending on what the contract would look like, I know, Yelda got a 3-year extension. He's a little bit younger. But they draft Isaiah Adams, I think, to be the next left guard of this team, which is being held down by Evan Brown this year. I think there's a real path, if Will plays well again this year, to keep the continuity up front for this team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's going to come down to how Will plays this year, how Evan Brown plays this year. And then when the opportunity arises, whether it's, the in-house successor suspects here, whether it's Isaiah Adams or John Gaines, who takes advantage of those opportunities. Or if it's just like, hey, we got something good here. We like our offensive line. We want to continue the continuity. Hernandez shows leadership qualities since he's been here, and he continues to lead the charge on and off the field in the weight room. He's hanging out already with our franchise quarterback. I think that he gets along with everybody. He's one of those guys that loves ball, and he loves the Southwest. And, it's all signs point towards, him, being a candidate to stick around. So, but then again, if Isaiah Adams shows improvement and they've invested a 3rd-round pick into him, then in the right guard spot is the only place he can get in, then maybe that becomes the unfortunate reality. But I just see it as a kind of a win-win for Hernandez. Like, he's either going to stick here, and he was able to kind of, revitalize his career after, the nightmare that was from Senior Bowl and draft darling to the New York Giants not being able to develop offensive linemen, and then their fan base, running him out of town, to finding a situation here where there was opportunity and taking advantage of it. I think he could parlay it into a nice little deal. And look, if this offseason is any indication, interior offensive linemen are getting some crazy money.
Speaking of the Giants, have you been following this story with Evan Neal? 1st-round pick of 2 years ago, was the 7th overall pick. And basically they're like, there's a possibility he could be gone from the team after this year, during this year. They're like talking about moving him to guard. He was drafted as a tackle out of Alabama. I mean, the Giants are literally, people rip on a lot of teams. The Giants have become like one of the biggest poverty franchises. And I think if you want to know where the Cardinals are and where they've come from, like, look at Will Hernandez coming from the Giants to the Cardinals and saying like, oh, I really like it here. Got good vibes here. They got a good thing going. And he opted to stick around and buy in post Cliff Kingsbury. So he's 28 years old. I think perfect world. Fast forward beyond this year. Jonah Williams plays well. He's under contract in 2025. Isaiah Adams plays left guard. And then you're able to draft a tackle early next year to replace Jonah Williams eventually. And then just keep plugging that pipeline in, getting people ready year after year, building out your bench. But, after what Yelda got, which I thought was a good payday for him, but fairly modest, like, you ought to be able to get something done with Will if all parties are open to that. Who's open to the Arizona Cardinals winning in week 1, according to the NFL Network? Not many, but there was one, Bo Brock. If we look here, game preview, sweep baby Daniel Jeremiah, picking the Cardinals to upset Buffalo 28-24. Everybody else, not so much.
No, not so much. But if you were to ask me, without even seeing these predictions, who knows ball, I would have said DJ compared to the rest of these, soon to be finding hopefully other places to work and not in the NFL punting game. Colleen Wolfe, what is this? Maurice Jones-Drew, Adam Rank. And by the way, Adam Rank, I think, had the Niners going 3-13 the year they went to the Super Bowl. So just base that off his predictions. Bucky Brooks.
Also has the Bears like winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Nick Shook, Edholm, and then who's this on right next to Jeremiah? I can't even read. Who is that? I've never heard of this person.
G. Gordon. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either.
Here's what I also don't like about this group. We'll put it up on the screen again. Everybody outside of Jeremiah has the Cardinals losing and losing by the spread. So it almost feels like they're playing into the spread. It's 6.5. I mean, everybody else on here outside of Eric Edholm, who is a nice guy, by the way, and Rank. They have the Cardinals losing by a touchdown.
To me. Yeah.
He is
to this podcast, at least.
He is.
But look, actually, what stood out to me was the lack of scoring.
Well, Buffalo did have a good defense last year, and they have a defensive head coach. And I think a lot of people, this season can't start soon enough for Kyler Murray. I'm skeptical of this pass rush now, and this defense gives me pause. But like, I can't wait for Kyler Murray in this offense to kick ass and take names. Like, this is going to come out wrong.
Okay.
But I'm going to say it anyway.
I'm excited.
I don't even care. Like, part of me doesn't even care about the optics of like, this is going to come out wrong. I want this team to win, but I also want Kyler Murray to come out and just start taking people out and putting up gaudy numbers. And if the Cardinals lose, despite Kyler Murray's efforts, like, I'm going to be disappointed, but I'm also going to be happy for Kyler Murray. Like, if they're losing games 35-32 to the Rams or whomever, and if the defense is terrible, like, we'll come on here and we'll scream and we'll bitch and we'll moan. But there's going to be a part of me that's going to be like, all you assholes that ripped Kyler Murray for stupid reasons that weren't relevant. Look at what this guy's doing. Like, he's putting up big numbers. He should be on a better team. They didn't do this and this and this defensively. But if they can't win, I at least want them to put up a lot of points. And I'm with you. I look at those point totals, and like, the Cardinals were putting up roughly 24 points per game last year with Kyler Murray and a receiving core that just wasn't very good.
No Milano. They had to revamp their secondary. Their veteran safeties are gone. We talked to Baldy, and he likes Taron Johnson as a nickel corner. It's like, fine, you can have a good slot corner.
Right.
You shouldn't be like a guy that's going to be the difference maker as far as teams being able to put up, 20 plus points. Like, can we put those back up one more time? Like,
yeah, of course.
With Kyler Murray in the lineup, they average 22 points a game, and we've got, the first line here, not even any of them picked the Arizona Cardinals to reach that mark. You've even got, like, if they lose 20-13 or 23-14, that's going to be when I talk about what it looks like when, like, it shows true disappointment. If this offense only musters 2 scoring drives in the game in the season opener with the expectations of, hey, this can be a fringe top 10 offense. I mean, that's where I think you can really disappoint a fan base.
Well, and I think that's where you point to, like, no preseason action, I think, has some warrant to
sure
the skepticism there. But I think I would take a lot of these defensive efforts now that you're pointing that out. I mean, I think if you hold Buffalo at 24 points or below, I think that's a win for this team. And we'll see if that's possible come week 1. A couple more super chats here. Alberto, $4.99. Just bet my Seahawks coworker $100 straight up, and $200 that the Seahawks would finish last in the division. I like that. Please, Cardinals, back me up. I think there is expectation for that. I know Baldy said, a lot of people think Cardinals are going to finish last. Like, it's still Geno Smith. And I put a lot of stake in Pete Carroll helping that team overachieve. We don't know if this guy from Baltimore can coach. And if he can, like, I still think Jonathan Gannon should have an edge over a team that is led by Mike McDonald and is it Mike McDonald and Geno Smith? Kyler Murray and Jonathan Gannon over Mike McDonald and Geno Smith every day, please. That's what matters.
They're into year 3 of, I think, having some pretty good drafts. Roster wise, they're pretty strong top to bottom, but they're going to be down probably their best edge to start, and then you don't know, the guy that was able to kind of take Geno from journeyman quarterback to starter in this league is gone. And I think we're discounting that quite a bit.
Jack, $9.99. Thank you so much, Jack. Jack looking jacked in that picture. Looking at the Buffalo Bills this year, I don't think they stand a chance against the Cardinals week 1. The whole world is sleeping on the Cards. Wow. Jack, I like your picture and I like your takes here. I do think that everybody is sleeping on the Cardinals. Like, that's not a hot take. That's something we've echoed like Cardinals have good players offensively. Even like I was watching John Middlecoff's podcast, and like he was the one with Cowherd recently that said, Kyler, stop playing video games. And then somebody asked him, I think, like something as it relates to the Cardinals' weapons. And he's like, Cardinals have a good team. Like they'll be a fun watch this year. Like I think like now that it's weird that fantasy football has like come back around, and like you've got Matthew Berry saying Kyler Murray is going to be a top 5 quarterback fantasy wise, which, you know, whatever. Marvin Harrison Jr. is getting drafted high. Trey McBride's like the 3rd tight end off the board. And then you've got Michael Wilson and Greg Dortch and James Conner. Now Trey Benson is RB2. Like, I think people are like, oh yeah, the Cardinals have some good players and they're young and they're ascending. It's not, you know, Derrick Henry going to Baltimore. He's 100 years old, right? Like I do feel like a weird way, and this is just the naiveness of the national media and how stupid this entire saga is. We've progressed beyond list season where people have agendas to, hey, who's going to help me win my fantasy league?
Right.
Who's going to put up points? Oh, the Cardinal play. Let's get all the Cardinal players.
Right.
Like, well, no. ESPN, you just said that Trey McBride's on a top 3 tight end. You don't get to put Trey McBride top 3 to 5. No. That's not how this works.
Yeah, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, and then everybody wants to feel like, hey, I was able to get the sleeper pick of Michael Wilson in the 13th round.
Right.
Feeling pretty confident about that. Oh, yeah, let me look at this wide receiver room again. Hey, if Michael Wilson's pretty good, I know Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be good. I know Trey McBride's good. I think that this offense can be pretty good.
Have some players. Oh, my goodness. Like, oh, my God. Like, we get it. The defensive, you know, deficiencies are there. Gannon's got to win games in the division. Like, we get that. But, man, like, let's open our eyes. How about open your eyes to maybe the best realtor here in the Valley? It's Coach Starks right now, CoachStarkHomes.com. I was tipped off. You know, I get tips sometimes as it relates to the most important things. And I'm gonna tell you right now, Coach Starks may be coming to Gila River Resorts and Casinos tonight.
Oh, all right.
And by maybe, he did tell me he was going to stop by, which I'm fired up because you get to meet the best of the West 3 years in a row here in the Valley, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Chris Starks, the president of Coach Stark Homes and West USA Realty, fantastic value relationships, and he's a big fan. The Cardinals, ASU football, I think he's got season tickets. He's going to be hanging out tonight at Gila River Resorts and Casinos, and if you're even thinking about dipping your toe in to this market, whether you're buying or selling, he's the guy, okay? Help me find my dream home here in the East Valley with rates at an all-time high. He navigated it to a T. He's worked with clients from Buckeye to Maricopa, Tucson, and of course, here in the East Valley, he's going to find the right home for you in Arizona. He's an ASU grad. He's a diehard fan of Arizona sports, and he's a real person, right? Like my wife loves to tell the story that, you know, historically, she has not loved any of the realtors we've ever worked with, period, right? She uses different verbiage, maybe some expletives. Coach Starks comes in, he's humble, and nobody works harder. We can get a hold of him right now, 623-695-3929. Check him out, CoachStarkHomes.com, or follow him at Coach Stark Homes. Again, he's going to be in attendance tonight at Wild Horse Pass, and you can talk to him about it because he'll tell you he's going to donate $1,200 of his commission to your closing costs because he is predicting, we talk about a ceiling for the Cardinals, 12 wins this year. That's $1,200 savings. Just for PHNX listeners, Coach Stark Homes, nobody better, Bo.
You got to love it. Love Coach Stark. Is he going to be making a pick for Johnny? Could help the old Venerable fantasy squad. One thing's for sure, like if they didn't have all the great cocktails and beers on tap at Wild Horse Pass, I'd be lugging around my Rugged Road cooler. And it's not lugging it around, actually. It's lightweight design. Unlike any of those heavy-duty coolers that you see that are so expensive, Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport for any trip, any of your outdoor adventures. Maybe you got a fantasy football party going on, a draft, and you just roll up with your Rugged Road cooler and you're all set. You got your cold ones right there, all iced down and perfect, and you're not, throwing your back out trying to get it out of your car into the event. Go and get ready for your fall adventures here in the Valley with the Rugged Road coolers. Head over to Rugged Road Outdoor or RuggedRoadOutdoors.com. Use the code PHNX, 10% off your order. Lightweight, durable, always floating upright if you're going to throw it there in the drink. Perfect on land or water. So leave the old heavy cooler at home and get yourself a better cooler for the new season. Rugged Road, your ultimate outdoor companion.
Drop a like on this video, Bo. This might be a little precursor to tonight. Who's on the screen? Is there one player that you have to leave Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass with tonight? One player.
Oh, man.
Would you be willing to admit that to this audience of 600 people?
I'm like, in all 600, please drop a like. I would say I want to play it tight to the vest.
Okay.
You are telegraphing where you want to go. It's very important for the Johnny Venerable brand that you might even just overdraft depending on where you go. You're going to try to take Marvin Harrison Jr. And I'm going to keep you honest with that. Like, I will tell you that if you leave him on the board and I'm picking behind you, he's not getting back to you. That's the type of gamesmanship I'm willing to offer to keep you in line with your promises to our audience, because I want you to, when you talk, to be truthful and speak honestly to them.
I only tell the truth. I've never lied ever in the history of the show.
So hopefully it's an empty threat. Hopefully it's you're a man of your word.
I'll make a prediction right now.
Okay.
If I pick, I'm not interested. It's a PPR league. I'm not interested in any running backs in the first round. You can have them, scraps. I don't want them. I'm not into them. Certainly not taking Christian McCaffrey in my fantasy league.
Mm-hmm.
The only way I'm not taking MHJ in the first round is if like a Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb is available.
Yeah.
One of the premier receivers. Yeah. If they are not available, and I'm looking at running backs like a Jahmyr Gibbs or a Garrett Wilson, or then I will take Marvin Harrison Jr. You have my word. Unless one of the big names receivers is there. Let me see. Chase, Tyreek, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson. Am I missing anybody, chat?
Brandon Ayuk, based on his new salary, is he in that conversation?
Never. Marv, to me, I have no problem taking him.
Here's what I want to tell the people, and like the people in the league. Like, I'll be this transparent because I'm such a good guy.
Okay.
Like the Max Simpsons, the Anthony Totrees, the new guys, Kevin and Kyle. Yep, absolutely. I think that if you're really looking for some true sleepers for the Cardinals, I think Trey Benson. I think even when he comes back from suspension, Zay Jones. I think that those are the guys that you want to target. That we don't talk often. We don't talk. Yeah, Tip. I think we're on record saying Tip is going to be a factor fantasy wise.
I feel like Tip's going to take targets away from Trey McBride.
Yeah,
so very confident about that. Totree.
Here's what I think they need to stay away from the group of K1, MHJ, James Conner, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch, Trey McBride. I think that you maybe get in on a Cardinals defense early. I mean, that's where you make your money.
Can't even finish that. Maybe get in on a DeMercado, little DeMercado action.
Yep. Look who made the team.
That's right, sleeper. We're having fun today on a football Thursday, and Bo mentioned it. We're back tomorrow morning, special start time, so we can get everybody out of here on a special holiday weekend. In the meantime, check us out. Become a diehard. Go PHNX.com. Just rolled out a brand new spanking interface at PHNXlocker.com, which you can pick up the number 18 collection, which is going to serve you well because according to Josh Weinfuss at ESPN today, it's going to be a while before you can get an MHJ jersey.
Did you see what variation you can get? Where you can get the Harrison Jr. no space. Like, do you anticipate me going to State Farm Stadium and seeing those custom jerseys?
Did you catch the little blurb indirectly about this fine program? I feel like he watched our show because there is a little bit of blurb about the other night you could purchase a jersey from NFL Europe or NFL.com Europe, and it was quickly taken down the next day. I feel like we played a small part in that. Did you know I was refunded from NFL Europe, but then they kept like $1.27 as like an overseas transaction fee. So that's the kind of sacrifice I'm willing to make for this show. On top of they might also steal my identity. But in the meantime, like this video, subscribe to PHNX Sports here on YouTube. Give us a big heart. Come out to Gila River. We're dead serious. The show's over. I'm driving over. We want to see you all. We want to hang out. It's going to be a great time.
Get in the war room with us. Let's go.
It's free, and there are giveaways. Like, Max Simpson has got some good stuff. PHNX sports gear. I don't know, maybe some Cardinal gear.
Team's going to suck. Because he's all focused on getting great giveaways for you fine people.
Who's going to Waffle House for PHNX Sports? Saul Bookman just did his time. These two guys, we're not doing it. But we love our time with all of you. For Bo Brock, I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
We all silly like the mayor.